Thank you. Again, my name is James Hunter. I'm the farm director at the Paul Quinn College We Over Me Farm, and I appreciate the opportunity to let you guys know about our program here at Paul Quinn, as well as the history of the college, the history of the farm, and our future and ongoing operations. So a little history about Paul Quinn College. Paul Quinn College was founded in Austin, Texas in 1872 by a group of African Methodist Episcopal ministers, and we're still affiliated with that church, the AME Church. It made a quick relocation to Waco in 1877 and then relocated here to Dallas in 1991. We currently sit on the former campus of Bishop College, which is another HBCU that went under in the mid-90s. We are the oldest HBCU west of the Mississippi, so we've been continuously operating for over 140 years. One of the things that is critical to the history of the farm is that in the mid-2000s, the college started going through a kind of tumultuous phase. And so they started running net deficits every year, they were losing enrollment, and they were starting to really struggle to be viable, both academically and financially as an institution. And so in 2007, our current president, Michael Sorrell, came on board and he began transforming the college into the current institution that we are at today. So in the fall of this year, we'll have 525 enrolled students, so we are a small college. That's up from about 150 back in 2008, but it is down from our historical high of about 2,500 back in the early 1990s. We are also the 8th federally recognized work college, which means that all the students that come to Paul Quinn work on campus as part of their tuition program. And so we are the first urban college that is a work college, and we're the first HBCU in the country that operates as a work college. So that being said, a little history about the farm. First of all, our name is the We Over Me Farm, and that's one of our institutional ethoses, and that really speaks to the nature of our beliefs as an institution, in that the power of the community is greater than individual needs, so as that the individual wants should never supersede the needs of the community, and so that we're constantly working to not only better ourselves but better our community, better our institution, and working together to do so and not seeking necessarily individual glory in achieving those goals and that missions. And so since it's one of the values of the college, we thought that it'd be fitting to name our farm after this value. And so in 2007, when our current president, Michael Sorrell, came on board, his second day in office, he disbanded the football team. As I said, they had been running a net deficit. The football program cost the school about $1 million a year. They were losing every game, and they were the lowest performing students academically. They were causing issues. They had disciplinary problems, and it really was just clear that if the college was going to succeed and continue to exist, that major changes had to be made. And so second day in office, he disbanded the football program and began this series of changes to the college in order to revitalize it and really change it and grow it into one of the leading small colleges in the U.S. And so some of the other programs that he implemented is that he immediately put into place a business casual dress code on campus. So if you're in class, if you're out of class, you are required to be in business casual. So there's no baseball caps, there's no jeans, there's no shorts. Everybody walks around with the idea that we are going to be looking professional at all times. He also began on a campaign of demolishing some of the derelict buildings that were around campus. So between 2009 and 2014, 15 buildings were demolished on campus. And then also in 2010, through a partnership with community members, some private donors and companies, we began transforming the former football field into a working farm. And so through a partnership with PepsiCo's Gardens for Good program, the Dallas Real Estate Council, and then private donors, we built some raised beds on the former football field. We began tilling up the from yard line to yard line, from end zone to end zone, and we started planting crops for the community. We are located in a neighborhood in southern Oak Cliff, or in the southern sector of Dallas, called Highland Hills. And when the farm was created, it was what's known as a food desert, which means that there was no local access to healthy food. So if you were down in Highland Hills, the closest grocery store is about 4.5 miles away, which means that you're going to be on an 1.5-hour round-trip commute by bus, which means that healthy local produce is not accessible for the members of our community. So part of that change that we envision is that we begin growing food to teach the students how to grow food, but then also how to provide community members with this healthy local produce that's grown right in their backyard. And so from that time and that vision, we began making these radical changes to the football field. In 2011, we tore down the old stadium stands. We built a 3,000 square foot climate controlled greenhouse. We tilled up the entire field and shifted it to put in drip irrigation systems. And so now the entire 2 acres is divided into 8 sections that we call downs: first down, second down, third down, to kind of keep the football lingo in place. And we grow 12 months a year on that field. Everything's on automatically controlled drip irrigation systems, which means that I can control every section and every crop and how much water all those crops get. In addition to the greenhouse, we also have a walk-in cooler so that we're able to refrigerate our produce right after harvesting. We were donated a tractor last year in 2016, and we have a shed and all the implements to keep that. We also have a flock of laying hens. We raise bees, and it's a really cool place for the students to learn about not only how to grow vegetables, not only where their food comes from, but also how to run a small business. Because we treat this farm as an entrepreneurial exercise. Yes, we have our roots in education. Yes, we have our roots in the community, but we also want to show our students what it's like to run a small business. And that small business happens just to be a small farm. The staffing of the farm is primarily done by students. So each semester I've got about 15 to 20 students that work on campus as part of our Work College program. And so they work on campus in exchange for a tuition credit, 150 hours each semester, and they receive a $2,500 tuition credit, with the idea being that most employers are looking not only for a college degree, but also for work experience, for a resume, for those skills to be developed when you're graduating college. And so we want to ensure that they're getting all of those tangible job skills when they leave Paul Quinn with their 4-year degree. And so for the first 2 years, they work somewhere on campus. It could be in administrative offices, it could be in maintenance or facilities, and 15 to 20 of them get to come work on the farm. And so they learn everything, all aspects of the farm. They learn how to plant the seeds, how to read the crops, how to harvest, how to market the produce. We deliver to about 6 to 8 restaurants every week around Dallas. We operate our own farmers market just next to the farm, and they're able to learn all those job skills. In addition to that, I'm the only full-time staff member running the farm, and then we have a part-time staff member that helps during the busy seasons, including the summer when the students aren't here. As a job opportunity for the students, I hire 3 or 4 students every summer to come work on the farm, and so that they're getting a paying job over the summer. But most of the work is just our students working for those 16-week semesters each year. We do, of course, since we are a nonprofit, we accept volunteer groups, and that's another critical piece of our labor component. And so it's mostly schools, churches, institutions, organizations. They come out, we tour them around the farm, and then they get to help us out on whatever projects that we're working on that day. A little bit more information about the college work program. It is a 150-hour program each semester. And as I said, the first 2 years you're spent working on campus. And so in addition to all the farming skills, we're also developing those business skills. So we're teaching them about accountability. We're teaching them about project management. As they progress through the program, ideally they're going to spend 2 years on the farm. We're going to start diving more into detail about the business aspects of the farm. So we're going to look at our 10-year plan. We're going to show them how to read a balance sheet. We're going to teach them about our income, about our expenses, how we manage those, how we try to mitigate risk by having a hyper-diversified crops, by having different income sources, both from restaurants to direct-to-consumer sales to wholesale sales, how we engage in fundraising operations. And so they get to learn and develop all those skills while working on the farm. After those first 2 years of working on campus, we then attempt to locate them an off-campus internship. And so they go from 150 hours up to 300 hours a semester working off-campus with different community partners, preferably in the field that they're intending to go into. So if they're pre-law, we're going to get them a job at a law firm. If they're interested in getting their MBA, we're going to try to match them to the right business experience. If they're interested in going into agriculture or banking or finance or marketing or education, we work with some of our community partners to get them those paid internships to ensure that when they leave Paul Quinn, they not only have that job experience and those job skills, but they also have an actual resume to go with their 4-year degree. And so what that does is it leads to a lower cost of tuition. And so before we started the Work for College program, tuition was about $26,000 a year. And because we've aimed at lowering costs, implementing a Work College program, we've eliminated textbooks across the institution, so we now only use open source free materials. We've lowered the cost of tuition to just over $9,000 a year. Now 85% of our students are Pell Grant eligible, and so what that translates into is that the average student leaves Paul Quinn with a 4-year degree with under $10,000 in debt. And so from a private institution, that's just an incredible number and something that we're really proud of, and it also makes a higher education really attainable for all of our students. As an HBCU, as an urban work college, most of our students are coming from predominantly low-income areas, and so if we are making college affordable to them, that's an incentive for them to come to us, get that 4-year degree, and then get that opportunity to go on and be connected in their fields and continue to be successful in their careers. What's the impact of the farm to date? And so since our inception in 2010, we've grown over 45,000 pounds of produce. Since I've come on board about 2 years ago, we've really implemented some intensive small-scale agricultural techniques. And so this year we're on track to grow about 25,000 pounds of produce. We are financially self-sustaining, and so we generate enough income to sustain the operations of the farm, to cover our students' tuition waiver, and then to ensure that we're financially viable for each season. We are a very popular place in our community, so this year we're on track to have about 6,000 visitors to the farm and around 3,000 volunteer hours contributing to the success of our farm. Because we still have that commitment to our community, we donate about 15% of what we're growing directly back into the community through a partnership with the North Texas Food Bank, which is our regional food bank. And so we're harvesting this produce, taking it directly across the street to a couple of the local churches, and they're able to distribute that, the same day that we harvest it. We sell another 15% at cost to community members, both through direct sales at the farm, bulk sales when they request it, and then we also started the first farmers market in South Oak Cliff back in May. And so what we've done is we've partnered with one of our community partners that operates farmers markets around the community. We set up every Thursday afternoon from 3 to 7 right on the college campus, and we've grown from 5 vendors to 10 vendors every week, and that's in our first 6 weeks of operations. And so that's going to allow us to keep 30% of the produce that we're growing locally. On top of that, we've switched food service providers as of July 1st, and we've immediately began engaging them to utilize the produce from the farm in the cafeteria. And so since it's the summer months, they're taking like 6 to 10 cases of cucumbers and the same amount of tomatoes every week. We're in our second week of the vendors, and there's cucumber and tomato salads out there for them to eat. We're working on menu planning as they're hiring an executive chef, and so we're targeting about another 10 to 15% going into our food services at the college. And so we're really trying to focus on not only educating the students and supporting our community members, but also keeping that food local, and so that our community members and our student body is able to really taste and appreciate the fruits of their labor. So some of our current projects are revolving around how do we become more impactful not only in the farm but also in our community. So currently we operate about 2 acres in the vegetable production, but the former football field sits on about 5 acres altogether. And so one of our current projects is we're seeking funding to expand our current operations from that 2 acres in vegetable production out to about 5 acres. And what's that going to allow us to do is to grow about 45,000 pounds of produce annually, which is going to allow us to support more of our community members, allow us to have more produce going to our local food pantries. It's going to allow us to have more food in our cafeteria that was grown right on campus. It's also going to allow us to generate more income, which is going to create more internship opportunities for the students as they're working on campus. And so the first phase of that operation is targeted to start in about August of this year, where we'll be expanding out the row crops. In addition to that, while we're growing 12 months a year, we don't have a lot of the infrastructure necessary to support a full range of crops throughout the winter months. And so what we started building this summer are some season extension infrastructure, things like seasonal high tunnels, low tunnels, and caterpillars, which are essentially simple metal frame building structures that sit over the crops and then are covered with a polyplastic covering, which allows the crops to be insulated underneath and allows the growing seasons to be extended on both sides of winter. So we're able to grow longer into the fall and early winter seasons, start our crops earlier in the winter, grow through straight through the winter, and get crops started earlier in the spring. We started building those first structures this summer with a seasonal high tunnel. We'll be continuing to build those into the fall. And so instead of just having like dark leafy greens in the winter months or shoots and microgreens from our greenhouse operations, we're going to expand that to have some other winter crops. We're going to be growing English peas. We'll be able to have tomatoes for harvest straight through from February to December. And we're also going to be able to grow all of our brassica crops, so our collards, kale, cauliflower, broccoli, and cabbages, and sustain that growth throughout the winter, whereas in past seasons we've really seen a decrease in that. Some of the other projects that we're working on this year is expanding our farmers market. So as I said, we went from 5 vendors to 10 vendors in our first 7 weeks of operations. We're aiming to have about 15 to 18 vendors by the early fall, which is going to increase local food access for our community members. We're also looking into developing a permanent farm stand right there on campus so that our students can sell the produce directly to community members 7 days a week. And then also increasing our nutrition and healthy eating education programs there in the community. So right now we're limited to about once every couple months education programs at the farm, and then offering tours and educational workshops to community members and students. And we're looking to formalize that program so that we have an ongoing program where both our staff and our students are able to educate our community members about healthy eating, nutrition education, and get them making those healthy eating choices. Because in southern Dallas right now, we have the highest rates of diabetes and heart cardiovascular health issues of any major city in the country. And a lot of those are directly related to diet, it's directly related to obesity, and so we want to start making inroads and addressing those needs in our community. Because we recognize that just growing, we're not going to ever be able to grow enough food to sustain all of our community members. So we need to start approaching community health from some of these other areas, which includes education programming. And so then the next step in our expansion programs is really creating a model that can be replicated in other communities, at other institutions across southern Dallas, across Texas, and across the country. And so what we've started doing is precisely documented all of the operations of our farm and essentially creating a blueprint that can be replicated and applied to other vacant lands or other institutions to start making inroads in these similar communities across the Dallas Metroplex and as well as across the North Texas and across the country, really. And so what that's going to allow us to do is have more of an impact not only in our own community, but also in like communities across the country. So what that really allows us to do is look towards the future on how we expand our programs at the farm. And so if we're able to produce crops for our students year-round, we're able to sell that produce and keep the farm running successfully. We're able to create more jobs for our community members and really educate them about healthy eating and nutrition and really create the sustainable model that then can be replicated wherever we want to target throughout the country. And so that's really the focus that we're now in our 7th year of operations, is that we're more than just small community garden plots. We are running a true functioning farm, and we really want to make the impact in our community felt. And so one of the things that we're doing is we're starting to investigate high yield intensive agriculture. And so some of those things means intensive crop plantings, utilizing cover crops, crop rotations to ensure that we're maximizing yield from small areas. We've implemented an aquaponics system in our greenhouse where we raise tilapia and then have herbs and different salad greens growing in a growing bed and supplied by the nutrients by those aquaponics above there. And then we also have a pretty extensive salad green shoot and microgreen operation in our greenhouse where we're growing about 150 pounds of shoots and microgreens every week in our greenhouse, which allows us to generate enough revenue to kind of cover some of the losses that we might take when, say, wild boars eat all of our melons, or we lose some of the chickens to stray dogs. We're able to recoup those costs by being highly diversified. And so this year we'll grow about 60 different crops across the farm, representing about 120 different varieties. Since our inception, we have been a fully organic farm. We're working on USDA certification this year, so we've never applied any synthetic pesticides, fertilizers, or pesticides on the farm, and we've started the application process to get a certified organic label put on all of our produce, hopefully by the end of this year or first quarter 2018. And just to overview that, our mission is to transform the southern section of Dallas by offering this healthy eating and nutrition education, as well as providing jobs and healthy produce to our community members. And that is it for the presentation today. I will be able to take all questions off to the side. You can reach out to us and follow us on Facebook, We Over Me Farm. Learn more about the college at weovermefarm.com, pqc.edu, and if you have any follow-up questions for us, you can reach me at pqcfarm@pqc.edu. I really appreciate the opportunity to share our program with you guys, and thank you very much.